Guardian reports that Peter Mandelson failed his vetting clearance, but the decision was overruled by the Foreign Office to ensure he could take up his post as ambassador to the US.
This story broke just before the programme began, and it doesn't just raise questions, it puts the entire decision under pressure. Because according to a new investigation by The Guardian, serious concerns were identified during the vetting process for Peter Mandelson. Concerns that, according to the report, were significant. And yet, the appointment still went ahead, not because those concerns disappeared, but because the process was reportedly overruled. And that's where this becomes difficult to ignore. This wasn't a routine position, this is Britain's ambassador to Washington, one of the most sensitive roles the government can appoint. So when something like that is questioned at the vetting stage, you would expect the process to stop, not continue. But it did continue, and that's the part that changes everything.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering.
When the Prime Minister was asked about this earlier this year, his answer was clear. Full vetting had been carried out. The process had been followed, clearance had been given. That's what was said, on the record. But now, that position is being tested. If the report is accurate, there are only two ways to explain it. Either the Prime Minister knew that concerns had been raised and defended the appointment anyway, or he didn't know. And that second possibility brings its own problem. If information of that level didn't reach him, then something inside government failed. And not at a minor level, at the level where decisions like this are made.
Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
That's where the pressure starts to build. This isn't just about the appointment itself, it's about what was said in Parliament afterwards. The Prime Minister didn't present this as uncertain, he didn't qualify it, he didn't leave room for doubt. He said the process had been followed, more than once, and that matters. If concerns were already there, then that statement becomes much harder to explain.
Mr. Speaker, as she and the House would expect, full due process was followed during this appointment, as it is with all ambassadors. The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret. He is right to do so. He is now playing an important part in the US-UK relationship.
That's why the question keeps coming back. What exactly was known? And when? Once that question is on the table, it doesn't go away.
He knew that Mandelson failed the security vetting and lied to us in Parliament, on TV repeatedly, or he didn't know, didn't ask, and said that he had passed the security vetting, which means that he is hopelessly incompetent. Either way, he should go.
At this point, the situation narrows. Once you step back and look at it clearly, there aren't many explanations left. Either the vetting process failed to flag concerns that were already known, or the information was identified, but never properly passed on. Or, the most damaging possibility, the concerns were identified, they were communicated, and the decision was made regardless. That's it. And none of those options sit comfortably. If the process didn't catch it, that raises questions about how decisions at this level are handled. If the information didn't reach the Prime Minister, that points to a failure inside government. But if it was known, then it becomes something else entirely. A question of judgment. And that's where the pressure now sits. This isn't a minor appointment. This is Britain's ambassador to the United States, a position that carries weight, visibility, and scrutiny. So when something like this comes into focus, it doesn't stay contained.
He says if he knew then what he knows now, but he did know. In January 2024, a journalist from the Financial Times informed the Prime Minister that Mandelson had stayed in Epstein's house even after that conviction for child prostitution.
And this is where the timeline starts to matter. What was said at the time doesn't fully match what's being suggested now. At the moment of appointment, the decision was defended, clearly, publicly, without hesitation. But as more information has come out, that position has become harder to hold, and that creates a gap between what was known and what was said. If concerns were already there, then the confidence shown at the time needs explaining, and if they weren't fully understood, then the process needs explaining. Either way, something doesn't quite line up. And once that gap appears, it doesn't go unnoticed.
What was not known was the depth, the sheer depth and extent of the relationship. He lied about that to everyone for years.
Inside Parliament, that shift is already visible. What started as a question about one appointment is now becoming something broader, not just what happened, but how it happened. And whether decisions like this are being made the way people expect, that's where it becomes harder to contain.
I am asking the Prime Minister something very specific. Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
And this is where it lands. This isn't something that disappears after one statement. The question is too simple. What did the Prime Minister know? And why was the decision defended? Until that's answered clearly, this doesn't settle. Every explanation still leaves something open. Either the concerns were already there, in which case the defense needs explaining, or they weren't fully understood, in which case the process needs explaining. But either way, the same issue remains. Something doesn't fully add up. And that's why this keeps coming back, because this is no longer just about Peter Mandelson. It's about judgment at the very top, and more importantly, it's about trust. Because once doubt enters the picture, even at a basic level, it doesn't just disappear, it builds. And right now, that pressure is only increasing. Because when a question this simple is still hanging there, people notice. And once people start noticing, it becomes much harder to ignore. If you want more breakdowns that focus on what actually happens inside Parliament, not just the headlines, make sure you're subscribed, because the more these moments are understood, the harder they become to ignore.